other duties, amongst the other duties in the renounced order of life of Sanatan Srila Rupa and other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourses amongst themselves at Seva Kunj, Vrindavan. So foremost duty, Prabhupada says, was to discuss Krishna Katha, hold learned discourses, which is also amidst them, and also to teach others. Jiva Goswami and all also taught the preachers great Siddhanta and Tattva and all those aspects. For the benefit of all in human society, they left behind immense literatures of transcendental importance. So they are for all of us, and they are not there to keep in the museum, transcendental literatures, isn't it? Sometimes people have this idea like, oh, Vrindavan Research Institute has a lot of handwritten books of Jiva Goswami and all. So then they will just go there and, touch to their head. And that's it. So that is good, some kind of appreciation. But the real appreciation for granthas of previous acharyas is by studying them, trying to study them, understand them, and put it in our life. It is not irrelevant. It is most relevant. If they're writing something, it is not irrelevant. Do Vishwanath Chakravarti and Jiva Goswami such acharyas not understand that, what they're writing will become irrelevant in 300 years? So it's not like that. It's just matter of sharing the knowledge to right level of audience. So you begin with Krishna consciousness, then you share the knowledge which is fundamental. Then as the practice goes on increasing, you share the higher and deeper aspects of that particular knowledge. So primarily for sadhakas, primarily for those who want to deeply understand Shastra and practice in spiritual life, all these granthas are there of our previous acharyas. And that's why they should be studied actually, at least those who are serious. Prabhupada says that so many places. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1 purport only is classic statement where Prabhupada says that many acharyas have written extensive commentary, and he says, and a serious reader will do well to go through these commentaries in order to better relish the transcendental messages. So one has to ask this question to himself: is he a serious reader? Does he want to better relish the transcendental messages? And then you follow that instruction like that. So that is the point over here. So one has to know to take from this great wisdom of Sampradaya and where to share what, that discretion is needed. Otherwise, if we take some high funda thing and share to newcomers, we'll bewilder them completely. But we will bewilder even the experienced devotees if we don't give the depth, the in-depth knowledge of Shastra, because their questions will be different. They won't be the same like 20 years before. Their questions would be now different, of a different nature. So accordingly, one should be able to guide. So unless until one has that depth within his own understanding, then one may not be able to serve at that particular level, help at that particular level. So it's actually everybody's together. Prabhupada and Acharyas, they are all a team. We are all together. And accordingly, this has to be understood, and accordingly, this knowledge should be shared with the people like that. Prabhupada books should be thoroughly understood before getting into technicalities of acharyas and all that. But once Prabhupada books are nicely understood, then one must get into the, these deeper aspects, because they nourish bhakti very much. The clarity of understanding which comes is a very, very immense, great boon actually for practicing bhakti that way. So, and even for preaching sake, right? Especially if one is preaching to the audience which is more seasoned and experienced, then they will look forward for that kind of explanation. So Prabhupada is so nicely bringing up this point over here. Foremost duty, he is speaking about that particular thing. So further he speaks about maintainer of all living beings, that we have that firm faith and conviction that Krishna is the maintainer of all living beings. So he quotes that story of Haridas Thakur, when in the cave, what happened in the cave? There was a serpent living, isn't it? And then when Haridas Thakur meaning that serpent was living, and then people were very fearful to enter into that cave. Where was this? Fulia. Prabhuji, Fulia, right? So then, so people were very fearful to enter into that cave. So then it so happened that in one night, the serpent only left from there. How did he leave? Because Krishna, within the heart of serpent, inspired that there is a lot of disservice happening over here because of his stay in that. So Prabhupada is bringing that particular point over here. So it is based on Vishwanath Chakravarti's comment that he says that, right? Antaryami hai wo Bhagwan. So one should have the faith that Lord will protect. Especially, we know that those days also, people, when they would stay, even in Vrindavan, just 200-300 years back, it was a very thick jungle and people would stay like that. But you don't hear the story where some sage was eaten up by a tiger or like that. Some sage was killed by some wild animal or like that. Don't hear that stories. And not such stories are not there. Even in Vraja's history and all that, such stories are not there. Meaning what? My point is this, that for a person to live fearless by keeping his faith that Krishna will protect, that is needed, especially for a renounced order like that. So we may not be at that level, neither I am on that level, but what I'm saying is we live for getting that conviction and getting that faith. Abhayam sattva samshuddhi, right? Those are the first qualities of a sannyasi, Prabhupada says, isn't it? Abhayam, that fearlessness. So fearlessness in terms of that who's there to protect me? No, Krishna is there to protect us like that. So Prabhupada says finally, that's why a sannyasi should always live alone without company, and he must be fearless. He should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. So he thinks that always he is in company of Paramatma, that way. Okay, so just 2 more verses. I wanted to finish this, so it will be now done. Text 6. Evam svachitte swataeva siddha atma priyortho bhagavan ananta tam nirvrato niyatartho bhajeta samsara hetu paramascha yatra.
Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the Supersoul, situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited, he is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence.
Yeah. So evam svachitte swataeva siddha. So if somebody were to say, are there no efforts in bhakti? You are talking about chirani kim patina santi and all that. But in bhakti, are there no efforts? Don't you have to search the Supreme Lord? Don't you have to search the arrangement for sadhana? So he's answering that with this. Actually, where is the question of any anveshan, any searching and arranging for the arrangements of bhakti? He's saying, evam svachitte swataeva siddha. That Supreme Lord whom you want to please is there in your own heart. Svachitteva swataeva siddha. That Supreme Lord, he is there in your own heart. To kidhar tumko ghumna hai? You know, of course, to realize that process, it's not so easy. But point is, he is comparing that with accumulating material resources. How here, for worshipping the Supreme Lord, you don't need very great elaborate arrangements or like that. He's saying he is there in your heart only. Atma, Paramatma, basically here refers. So he is the Swachitte Swataeva Siddha, he is Lord Vasudeva. He is the Adhisthata of Chitta. So such a person, he is Atma, Priya, Arthaha, Bhagavan and Anantaha. This is all the adjectives for that Supreme Lord. He is Paramatma, he is Priya, he is most dear to the soul. And wife and children may be also dear, but they are not Artha. He is Artha, he is the substance, Vastu evo. Vastu meaning the real thing. It is not Anartha. And he's also very sweet. Bhagavan is filled with Madhurya qualities and all that. Anantaha. And he can be served also in various places, time, place. He's everywhere and he's available at all times. So these first 2 lines are glorifying Krishna's qualities. as Atma, Priya, Artha, Bhagwan, Anant. And then the sadhaka's qualities are described in the third line. Nirvrito niyatartho. So this Bhagwan is made into the goal of life by sadhaka niyatartha. And nirvrita means that he is delighted in service of this Supreme Lord. He is blissful in serving of this Supreme Lord. Or nirvrita, as Prabhupada translates, can mean also detached, like nivrutta. Nirvrita and nivrutta, these two are different words. Nirvrita means blissful, but it can also sometimes mean detached. And nivrutta means detached, this way. Sometimes they are interchangeably used. So that's why Prabhupada's meaning is justified. Tam nirvrito niyatartho bhajeta samsara hetu paramaschayat. And that Supreme Lord, in this way one will worship, then it will uproot all the samsara. So he's sort of concluding it. He's saying this is why one should worship the Supreme Lord. Don't run behind the karma phala, don't run behind karma kand, or don't run behind the material enjoyment, but rather worship this Supreme Lord who will uproot all the samsara. Like that, he says. So Prabhupada also addresses these words in his purport, like he says here, he is the substance and not illusion. So that is artha, exactly. Then he says, conditioned soul wants to achieve people like wife and children and necessary paraphernalia. That he's addressing as priya. Wife and children also may be priya, but they're not artha. They are just at the bodily level, that aspect. So that is what. But Krishna is artha also, this way. Krishna is not anartha. This is the point. Further, we would like to find a solution to all these problems of life. What is that? Birth, death, old age, disease, and death. But how to end? That is samsara hetu uparama. That is referring to that particular word. He's talking about that aspect. Further, Prabhupada says, mother and child, he is saying, that just as a mother always wants her child to be connected to her, similarly, Krishna also wants us to be connected to him. And that's why he always tries us to get back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada says like that. So that aspect also is especially in terms of Krishna's eagerness to get us back. Finally, that aspect of Ananta, he is everywhere. So this does not suggest, however, that we should not go to the places of worship. Because he is everywhere doesn't mean, you don't have to go to temple and worship him like that. So like that, Prabhupada's purports is actually for one who is clear with the verse, it's very clear what idea he's speaking. He's speaking Ananta, he's speaking Priya, he's speaking Atma, he's speaking Artha. Like that he writes purports, connecting to the words of the verse this way. So this is how he is connected. So this is the conclusion, last verse, just 2 minutes. Kastam tvanadratya paranu chintam rite pashun satim nama kuryat pashanjanam patitam vaitaranyam swakarmajan paritapan jushanam.
Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of sufferings as the consequence of accruing the result of their own work.
Yeah. So that's why he says, Kastam tvanadritya. Who will disregard this paranu chinta? Paranu chinta means what? The meditation on this Supreme Lord. Parasyanu chinta. Meditation on the Supreme Lord, the transcendental thoughts, Prabhupada says. So who will, anadritya, who will disregard this paranu chinta? And instead what he will accept? Asati. Asati means the path of repeated birth and death. Who will disregard the great transcendental path of worshipping Supreme Lord and instead accept the path of asati rite pashun, except for the one who is an animal, he says. Except for an animal who will reject the path of worshipping this Supreme Lord and instead accept repeated birth and death. So it is like that. Puman virajjet vina pashugnaat. Like that. Aho virajjet vina naretaram. Maitreya also says. So all such verses, similar meaning like that. Especially pashan janam patitam vaitaranyam. Especially if somebody is seeing that people in this world, they have fallen in Vaitarani. Because of their own karma, they are suffering the result of their karma. So seeing others who are suffering in this world by practicing path of karma, who will give up this path of transcendence and go back to that path of karma again? That is how he is speaking this. So what is Vaitarani? Vaitarani is a river in hellish planets, you know that, which flows in front of Lord Yamaraj's door. But what is made up? What is Vaitarani made up of? Does it have waters? No, it doesn't have waters. It is made up of blood and mucus and stool and urine and all beautiful substances that you can think of. So that is a Vaitarani. And when the jiva goes there, meaning the conditioned soul, especially those who qualify for suffering, so they are welcomed by first having Jalavihar in this Vaitarani. They are thrown in the Vaitarani like that. Then they suffer terribly. Everything goes in their mouth and like that. And of course, they will not die, but that this way. So similarly, he is comparing the path of repeated birth and death to Vaitarani. Samsriti, asati is being compared to Vaitarani, like that. So who will do that? He is saying. So don't be attached to karma kand, and don't be attached to karma phala. Don't be attached to upasana phala also. Come and be attached to Paramatma, whether for achieving devotional service or achieving Paramatma dharana. But in any case, he says that that's the point. So Prabhupada also writes these ideas in purport. You can see that he's writing about Vaitarani, and he's also writing about the aspect of somebody except Pashus who can accept the path of Karmakanda. Okay, I'll stop here. Grantraj. Okay, any questions or maybe any comments you have? Prabhuji? Any questions on this section? Of course, this section is quite popular, so most of you are aware. Probably you know better than me this section. You can speak better than me. But yeah, it was an important section, quite faith-giving for us as the path, as the practitioners of path of renunciation. And so, tomorrow, it's basically Krama Mukti and Sadhya Mukti. That section will go a little fast because there is not so much philosophy. And whatever is described by Acharyas, that much we can speak of about those. Yes, bro.
One question. When you were explaining Yukta Vairagya, you told that devotee is very eager to get the things used by Krishna.
Yeah.
For that, he is very eager. Like we have heard, like I have heard the understanding of Yukta Vairagya is that the devotee is very eager to utilize the things for Krishna's service.
Correct.
And here I am hearing like he intends for using the things used by Krishna. So what is the understanding? Yukta Vairagya,
both the understand.
Go out and get things for Krishna, or?
See, how do you understand that Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe word? Huh? Do you have some understanding of that word of Sanskrit? Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. What does it mean? Huh? See, using everything in Krishna's service, that's like fundamental understanding. There is no doubt about it. That's what is Yukta Vairagya, right? But if you see the explanation of Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe in Tika, how Vishwanath Chakravarti and Srila Jiva Goswami, they say. So, see, it's spoken in a context where you talk about utility of Vairagya. In Bhakti Sami Sindhu, if you see, it's spoken. So, people who are Vairagya, they are not interested in anything which is like the flowers, or which is like the food, or which is like the resources of this world and all that. So they rejected everything. They are not interested in anything. So now he gives the meaning of that Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe also in this way, that when it comes to a devotee, he is very enthusiastic to accept these things like Mahaprasad or like that. That time he will not think as a Vairagi ki, Are, ye kaise kar sakta hu main? How can I take this? Because this is some nice saint, or this is some nice flower, or this is some nice Mahaprasad of Krishna. If it is being offered to him, or, even there is eagerness to receive these things. So that is characteristically different from a Shushka Vairagi, who is indifferent to these things. And that is what is the definition of Mumukshubhi Parityago. So general understanding of utilizing everything in Krishna's service, that understanding is clear only. I am giving you specific meaning of the word nirbandha Krishna sambandhe. Nirbandha means insistence, and Krishna sambandhe means of the things which are connected to Krishna. And exactly what is contrasted in that is prapanchitkataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastunaha mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu kattate. And exactly when such things are coming to a mumukshu, he will consider, Are, why should I take this Mahaprasad of Krishna, or this scent offered to Krishna, or this garland? He has the prapanchik buddhi towards it, that these things are actually not good for my vairagya. These are useless. So because of that, he does parityag. He rejects those things. Even if he is offered Mahaprasad, even if he is offered Krishna's some beautiful garland or like that, he says, no, 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 I am vairagi, I don't take it. That's called as vairagyam falgu kathyate. So the aspect of utilizing everything in Krishna's service, that is true only. But there is also this special meaning to the text that comes forward with it. And with that comes the meaning also, that how even somebody like Rup Goswami or Srila Jeev Goswami, they would be most enthusiastic to get Krishna's upabhukta things, with the things which are enjoyed by Krishna, right? Toya upabhukta sragvasa gandha vasolankara charchita uchishta bhojanodasam vayam mayam jayemahi. Just as Uddhav says that actually by eagerly accepting things which are enjoyed by you, O Lord Krishna, like your Mahaprasad, like your clothes, like your Uddhav was practically getting everything of Krishna, right? So he says that by eagerly accepting this uchishta bhojano dasans vayam mayam jayemahi, we will conquer the illusory energy, O Lord. He says that. So that aspect is also there in the technical understanding of this verse. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we'll stop here. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada ki.